Okay, no, not a problem, not a problem. Listen, this is just a wee initial slide for schools and outdoor learning benefits and roles in ASN schools. So I'm a principal teacher at Bothwell Park High School, a school supporting children with severe and complex needs. And we utilise quite highly outdoor learning in forest schools across our curriculum. And again, interestingly, just touching which was previously said, we have no issues with tool use, dangerous equipment, risk-averse play with some of our most challenging children. At that point, they most certainly learn that, if you give them those dangers, they don't, again, just again what we said in the previous presentation, they don't seek them out. And then what happens is we go back into school and we all appear a whole lot calmer. But I'll talk further on that on the next slide, please. So I thought I'd better talk quickly about how we go about this and the importance of it, so that we can bring everybody forward in the whole school with it, and create a whole school ethos. And I think one of the better places to start is Higgius. So we sat down, we evaluated where we were as a school, what we've got and what we've not got, what we can do and how we can go forward. And one of the places we realised we need to go forward was with our outdoor learning. So we popped that into our school improvement plan and decided how we're going to improve our school and what we need. So we looked at the areas of outdoor learning, and I think it's also important to note that the areas of outdoor learning are all very different. So you have forest schools, you also have what you might call generic outdoor learning. You've then got your gardening, you've then got your horticulture. So you've got to put all these into their own different boxes and create the ethos for each of these individual ones to implement each pupil's individual interest. So having done that, we looked at it as a whole school vision. We brought everybody on board. There was people that were certainly resistant, and we had to work through that. And the best way to work through that was looking at bringing all staff on board, looking at training, sending out people in forest school leader courses, sending out people in forest school assistant courses, outdoor learning courses. Then we shared good practice amongst the school, amongst staff and amongst pupils. This allowed us to embed that ethos into the school, creating a huge interest for all staff and all pupils involved, moving on to leadership at all levels for all staff, staff watching staff, pupils watching pupils, pupils leading pupils, staff leading staff, pupils leading staff, vice versa, and so on. Risk assessment's huge. You do need your whole risk assessment to build confidence for staff and pupils. You need your individual risk assessments for pupils. Just as the previous speaker mentioned, we're fortunate in terms of our staff and numbers. Some of our pupils are 2-to-1 and 1-to-1, but that still goes down on the risk assessment, and it builds confidence in staff. If you've got the policy and procedure and the handbooks in place so that staff can refer to that and understand what forest schools and outdoor learning is, that'll support them to embrace it. Staff enthusiasm versus staff resistance. You bring forward the enthusiastic staff, you get them smiling about outdoor learning, you get them smiling about forest schools, and you support the staff that are resistant. You ask them why they're resistant and you evaluate it, and often it's based around weather. They don't like to go out in the rain, but we live in Scotland, and there's a wee picture just there next to it. There's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing. And that is very true in Scotland. The only time, and I'm outdoors all the time in the school, the only time I would let that one slide is for the rain's coming sideways. And then you turn around and you have to call it for safety reasons sometimes. Resources. Your biggest resource is your staff. Bring your staff with you. Bring your whole school staff with you. Present this. If you're beginning to do forest schools and outdoor learning in your school, present this at an in-service day. Make time for it and bring your staff with you. When you've brought your staff with you, then you can start thinking about equipment. Then when you've got your equipment, you can start thinking about clothing to overcome that main resistance of I don't want to go out in the rain. And you just build that all in, but make time for it. And the best place to make time for it is in an in-service day. Tell your head teachers you're doing it. Parental engagement's huge. In our school, one of our biggest successes was parental engagement and partner agencies. We had our National Outdoor Learning Day, and we had head QIOs and CIOs from North Lanarkshire Council. We actually had some other head teachers. We had loads of parents. We had speech and language and educational psychology, and we were all down the woods we were cooking rolls and sausage, we were cooking pancakes, we were building dens, we were building rope swings and bridges, and it was a hugely successful day. But that leads me on to my next slide. So questions we need to ask ourselves when we're considering the benefits of forest schools and outdoor learning. And if I go on to the next slide, some of the slides just come up as quick questions. So education is not something we want to keep in a box, even when that box is classroom shaped. You know, sometimes the environment's entirely wrong for our young people sitting in a classroom. They're going to get bored, they're going to get fidgety. And often, sometimes with the best will in the world, teachers tend to give children rouse for that. Whereas say if you're outdoors and you're sitting and you're fidgety and you're not feeling, you know, you're not really feeling it, it's not noticed, it goes unnoticed. That child doesn't get a, you know, what some might say is a rollicking or a row or anything, because it doesn't get noticed. See, when you're swinging on a log outside, you know, you're swinging in that log, you're outside, nobody cares. You know, if you fall, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You'll fall on a bundle of leaves. It's you know, we've got to understand manageable risk. And if you fall on that wee bundle of leaves, you're not going to hurt yourself. If you fall on the chair in the classroom, you're going to hurt yourself. So take that, you know, take that route out of the equation by changing your environment, and then allowing teaching and learning to flourish, and allowing the children to progress in a, you know, in an absolute fantastic manner, generally speaking. But if we move on to the next slide, I've got another quote. I quite like my quotes, but this one's based around, are we stealing our children's boredom? And that's because that bases around just the wee box just below that about intrinsic motivation. See, if we hand children iPads and tablets and pens and pencils with worksheets, children immediately, they're bored because they do not have to think intrinsically. They do not have to think, what are we going to do to entertain ourselves? If we go out to forest school and we start to, say we're working in a cooking programme in forest school, well, they've immediately got to think, how am I going to sit down? What's going to be my table? What's going to be my kitchen? There's nothing there for them. So they need to look and say, right, okay, well, there's that log over there. And then they're going to need to work together because that log might be heavy. We need to bring that log over. That's going to be our table. We're going to use that as our chopping board. And do you know what? We've not got a seat, so we're going to go and get a smaller log. And then immediately you're beginning to talk about big and small. I want a big table. I want a smaller log for my seat. And you're bringing in educational values about, you know, anything, size, shape, measurement, all sorts, which I come to later on in my slides. But the sort of the worry there, or with that quote, is I find myself worrying most that when we hand our children phones, and I think tablets and iPhones and worksheets at times, we steal the boredom from them. As a result, are we raising a generation of writers that will never write, artists that will never doodle, chefs that will never make a mess in the kitchen, athletes that will never kick a ball against a wall, musicians who will never pick up their aunt's guitar and strumming. The purple one, athletes who will never kick a ball against a wall, that fits in with intrinsic motivation. You know, too many of our children now go to outdoor spaces where play, like my son's football team, for example, it's all organised. There's football goals there. They've got these mannequin things that they kick around the ball when they're hitting a free kick and so on. Long ago are gone the days where, you know, you went down and you had to think, right, how am I going to even make a set of football goals? Let's take our jumpers off and put them down for goal posts. Or even if you go out yourself, how do you entertain yourself? Kick the ball off the wall. It will come back to you. But children sometimes aren't seeing that just now, whether it be mainstream or ASN, and we're having to sort of teach intrinsic motivation. We're having to teach children to do things for themselves, and we need to support that a little more. And forest schools and outdoor learning are just ways that allow that opportunity to happen so easily. But if we sort of move on to the next slide, please. So why go outside? Why learn outside? Why choose outside? So I'll run through this quite a lot. I know you can see the quotes in front of you, but I'll read them. Are you overwhelmed? Go outside. Too much to do? Go outside. Overly distracted? Go outside. Feeling anxious? Go outside. Need some restoration? Go outside. Well, why are we not proactive about that? Why not stop that before we're overwhelmed? Why not stop that before we've got too much to do? Why not stop that before we're distracted, before we're feeling hugely anxious, and before we need that restoration? Why not be proactive and implement an outdoor learning and forest school programme where it's built into the pupils' curriculum? We've got the communication boards. I don't have pictures of it, and I'm glad that it was presented just previous to me, of board maker symbols now and next. Give the pupils, especially as we're talking ASN, give them processing time. Don't walk them in the door and say, hey, we're going outside, go get your wellies on, because there's no time for them to process what's happening. Put that timetable in place. Take away the overwhelmed factor, because they can see it in front of them. I'm having my snack, and then I'm going outside. That reduces the anxiety. There's not too much to do. Do you know, I can see actually before in my timetable, because of the symbols that are on my timetable, I can see that all my teacher's asking me to do is do my circle time, and then I can go get my wellies on and I'm going outside. My anxiety immediately reduces, and I feel that I'm ready to go outside and be restored in pretty much nature. As forest schools and outdoor learning shouldn't be used as an intervention. It shouldn't be. But it can be. We've used it at times when some of our young people are in crisis, and we're able to support them by, using their symbols and saying, hey, listen, there's forest schools, let's go out and light a fire. Let's go out and use a knife. Let's go out and use an axe. Now, you think that's crazy, because I've just said it's when pupils are in crisis. And then we've just spoke about going out and use, but that's because, back to what I was saying earlier, when we give them these tools, it actually takes away that sort of strange aspect of, that's dangerous, I could hurt somebody with that. It's actually, do you know what? I'm going to use this safely, and I'm going to use it appropriately. So let's go outside and use that. And the bonus of making a fire is you're going to roast a marshmallow as well. It's all the small things. We're not just making a fire just to make a fire. We're going to roast a marshmallow. And I've not seen one child yet that doesn't like a marshmallow or a s'more or a marshmallow and melted chocolate. Absolutely love it. But if we could move on to the next slide. We're talking about what benefits can forest schools have, and how can we implement that in the school. There's something that we do in our school called TCI. It's therapeutic crisis intervention, and there's a thing called setting conditions, and it's anything that's more or less likely to make a challenging behaviour occur. So how can we make a challenging behaviour less likely to occur? And the answer really is outdoor learning in forest schools. By implementing organisational culture based around that, having the ethos that we've spoke about earlier from the school based around Higgius and the school improvement plan, your whole school is driving forward as one unit. So the organisational culture in the school is all about, forest schools is absolutely the best thing. Outdoor learning is the best thing, because it is. Get the environment right. The environment in the forest school and outdoor learning setting is fantastic for children. They can have space to go away and do their own thing, which fits in on the right hand side of that slide with the positive behaviour support techniques. That's proximity. Sometimes we're too much up in the face of children in the classroom, whereas in the forest and in outdoor learning, there's loads of space they can have. We can use redirection out there, and the children can have time away out there, but still be involved. That's how we keep forest schools and outdoor learning programme related as well. We have the symbols that we need, and then we build the relationships out there. Relationships are key. If we get relationships right with our young people, and it was mentioned before as well, you'll build the relationship with your key worker to start with, and then when everybody's more confident, you build the relationship with others, and then all of a sudden you've got a group that's putting up hammocks and cooking 3-course meals outside and just thoroughly enjoying themselves. It's always worth thinking about the behaviour functions of young people as well. And for every behaviour that there is a function, there's a big phrase that goes about in education just now called all behaviour is communication, and I'm sure you've all heard of it. I've got my own spin on it in the sense that I think all behaviour is communication. However, sometimes some behaviour communicated is inappropriate, and we have to learn how to communicate appropriately, even when all your behaviour is communication. So you've got to think, was that young person looking for attention? Did that young person feel hard done by? So are they displaying a revenge, sort of a justice? Do they feel out of control? Was there not enough adult-led, safe control? Are they looking for more control? Is it tangible? Do they need to get hold of something? Do they need to go and do something outside? Escape, avoidance? Do they feel they're moving away from the task? And then you've got your sensory factors of self-regulation and managing their emotions. And we've got to think of all these things to get them right. And the easiest way to get them right, in my opinion, is outside, because you've got the space, the time, and the fresh air to do that. But if we move on to our next slide, that'd be great. I've just stuck this in here. I don't want to spend too long on this, but the link is there. It's a play deprivation article that just, I think, to show the benefits of outdoor learning in forest schools, you've got to think what the negatives are and why we need it. And why we do need it is children are now deprived of play. That's a proven factor. They're going home and they're sitting in their rooms on PlayStations and Xbox and phones, and very rarely actually going over the threshold of their front door. The children in my school are actually quite lucky, because often they'll go out with partners and play. So they're getting taken out to experience the outdoors, but others who aren't getting taken out will often choose to sit in their house and be deprived of play, and they then forget how to go out and kick a ball. They then forget how to pick up a stick and sword fight with somebody with their imaginary stick. Imagination is then impeded, and then it's all adult-led play, which becomes boring for some children. And some children just want to play, and we've got to let them. So in the other picture there, why not let a kid climb a tree? And when they climb the tree, unless they're going up extremely high and they're going to hurt themselves, risk assess that in that moment, but don't worry about it, and don't give the child a row for it. Leave them to it and let them enjoy it. Let them explore. Let them see what's going on. Don't let them hurt themselves. But you learn a lot from sometimes when you fall down, and then you'll maybe not climb the tree as high next time. So think of all those things. Children learn as they play, and most importantly, in play, children learn how to learn. So let's let the young people play. See, when they're in the forest, it doesn't have to be a big, fantastic, super duper lesson. It can be just, hey, we're here. Go and play. Go and ramble in those leaves. Go and find some conkers that have fell off the tree. See if you can spot some squirrels. Go and climb that tree. Go and grab some sticks and sword fight, as long as you're not hurting each other. Wire in and have fun. But we need to let children learn through play. And if we move on to the next slide, that'd be great. I've stuck this in here as well, and I'm not going to spend a great deal of time on this slide, but it's well worth a look if you come back to it in the presentation. And it's the 6 principles of forest schools, and they're not too far away from the principles of nurture. And I know nurture's a huge thing in schools just now. It's a long-term process that we want to get right. The session should be in a woodland in a natural environment, and that's why it's important that we differentiate between forest schools and outdoor learning and horticulture and gardening. We want to keep that environment natural. It's proven to be good for the child's brain, the release of dopamine when you're talking about fight or flight, and the amygdala. The children's, the thinking part of the brain, and then we've lost the thinking part, and our amygdala and our fight and flight's opened up, and then we're trying to bring that back through all our behaviour strategies. But if we can avoid that through releasing appropriate levels of dopamine, which is proven that the greenery in the forest will do that, then hopefully that can work in forest schools. Forest school, one from the bottom. Forest school is run by a qualified practitioner who continuously maintains and develops professional practice. This is true. However, I started my forest schools not been trained, so it was then still nearly called outdoor learning, but I was just copying what people were doing until I got my training. So feel free and be confident to have a look at what other people's done and go out and do it. The only thing you can't do is say you're doing forest schools. You're still doing outdoor learning, and you're still in a forest. You just technically couldn't pop up on your Glow blog or your internet, hey, we were out doing forest schools. You maybe could, but you might get in bother for it, who knows. But if we could move on to the next slide. Clear benefits of forest schools and outdoor learning: building confidence and independence, understanding empathy, physical and mental wellness and fitness, building resilience and adaptability, exposure to manageable risk, learning through experiences, learning through play, and better mood and sleep patterns. One of the biggest ones in that is understanding empathy. What children can and can't do, they sometimes don't understand. And when they see a child struggle with something, they struggle to empathise with that until they struggle themselves. And then they go, oh wow, do you know, see lighting that fire with that fire steel, you know, sparking the fire steel. It's a hard job, that. And sometimes people look at other children and they're like, why, you know, how can you not do that? And they understand and they become empathetic towards that person when they realise, I can't do it myself. This is a hard job and we're going to need to work at it. But if we work at it, we're going to build confidence and independence. Our physical and mental wellness is going to be much better because we're going to be full of confidence. We're going to build resilience because we understand that, hey, this didn't just happen like that. We're exposing ourselves to manageable risk because we're lighting a fire. We're learning through our own experiences that, hey, we can do this, we can light a fire, and then what else can we do with that fire? We're learning through play because it's just fun, and it creates a better mood and sleep pattern because we've had an active day where we've worked hard and we've learned loads. But if we move on to the next slide, so I've left this in here as well. This was during lockdown. I made videos to try and support pupil learning because for the children in our school, the learning was pretty experiential at that time. So I made videos for them to watch. And I thought basing it around using the fire steel and showing how the fire steel works and how you can fail using the fire steel, it might be worth a watch for people to have a wee look. And also take the video and use it. Like I say, if you're not forest school trained, get a colander, get some cotton wool and get a fire steel and go out and just start. And then from that you can build wee fires and you can start roasting marshmallows and start your outdoor learning that way. But if we move on to the next slide, outdoor learning in forest schools isn't rocket science. It's very easy. So don't beat yourself up about it. Don't worry about it. Just go and do. And in the next slide, I'll tell you how to go and do. Because when I started outdoor learning in forest schools, you know, a good while ago, the first thing I done was I went outside. I didn't actually know what I was doing. Really, I'd kind of planned a sort of lesson, or thought I planned a lesson, and I went outside. So then we went down there and we started talking about problems. And when with the children in front of me, after we'd do the initial lesson, I would say, hey, we've got a problem. It's raining. And you'd start having to brainstorm, you start having to use your intrinsic motivation and think, what do we need? We need a shelter. So I stole my dad's tarp for his back garden in the garage, and we built a shelter the next time we went down. We then went down again and we sort of said, oh, do you know what, we've built our shelter, but that was hard work. We're now tired. We actually need to sit down, but the ground's soaking wet. So we got another tarp and we put a ground sheet down. We then thought, next problem, if it's windy, that ground sheet's going to blow away. Let's get a peg and peg it down. So we pegged it down. Then, lo and behold, we forgot the pegs. So we decided, how are we going to make pegs? And this was the first time we introduced tools and introduced a knife, and we'd risk assessed it. But we had to whittle down pegs with whittle down sticks with a knife and dig them into the ground. And then lo and behold, we'd made a peg from our den with our tarp. It's cold, build a fire. We're hungry, build a fire again and roast a marshmallow, make rolls and sausage, make pancakes. The shelter's not high enough, make a rope ladder. Talk about height, talk about how do we get up that high. Problem solved. We're knackered again, I need to lie down. Set up a hammock. Have a look at knots with the pupils before you go out on the smartboard and see what kind of knots we can tie. All work, no play. This is getting a bit tiring again. We've been working hard, cooking and building everything. So let's have a bit of fun. Make a rope ladder and then talk about, or make a rope bridge, you know, out of a ratchet strap or a couple of ropes together, and talk about how you don't want to fall because you know those crocodiles will get you as you're trying to cross that bridge. But just make it fun and enjoy yourself. This is a big one for teachers. A lot of teachers worry about attainment and achieving. Like, we are going outside and it's great fun, but what are we getting from it? So I just popped in a few things in the next slide, just to keep people aware that I'm a secondary school teacher. Generally speaking, I teach at National 1 and National 2 level in the school I'm in. And any National 1 and National 2 that I have seen, you can adapt to the outdoors. Practical craft skills, working with tools at National 1 level. your outcomes are there. Choose an activity, choose the tools and equipment required, and follow instructions and procedures to complete the chosen activity. Whittling down your peg or making a mallet in forest schools, that covers that, no problem. Science in the environment, building a fire covers that outcome entirely. All you've got to do is take pictures. Number, skills and shape. Go down there and make shapes out of sticks, make triangles, make squares, and then see when you've made the squares and triangles, gather more sticks and make pyramids and cubes. You know, the learning's endless. If you're a secondary school teacher, have a look through the National One documents and just think what you can match into outdoor learning in forest schools and wire in with that. And if there's anything you want to ask, just pop me an email and I'll hopefully I can help. But that was that. And thanks for listening.